Welcome everyone to a conversation on art, technology and inclusion. My name is Alex Frankcombe and I am the Public Art Manager for Fulton County. Part of my role is managing a new initiative that we have called the Public Art Futures Lab. Our mission is to make the creation and experience of tech-enabled art accessible to our community. By reducing the barriers to participation, we seek to expand access to cultural enrichment, provide the tools for artists to thrive, and ensure that Atlanta takes a national role in leading the broader adoption of technology in the arts. I'm excited to be part of this panel and to talk in front of everyone tonight. But before I introduce the panel, I kind of wanted to frame the conversation. I feel like this is such a broad topic that I kind of wanted to narrow it in. Particularly with the guests that we have. So the one question that we seek to answer at the lab, and I encourage everyone here to think about it as well, is how do we empower the public to engage with art? The public wants art. I think we saw that during the pandemic where a lot of galleries closed and everyone wanted to still experience art, and so we saw these new forms of experiencing that kind of art. But they want to do more than just see it. They want to interact with it. They want to touch it. They want to be immersed in it. And one solution is technology and the variety of new and unexplored opportunities presented by its potential. Artists have the ability to change the world in different trajectories and democratize ideas, and interactions with technology allow for these unique ways of telling stories. But I think it's important, particularly with the previous presenter, that to point out that technology is not neutral. It is created within a system and indeed can uphold the same forms of discrimination that we're all fighting against at the moment, and potentially replicating and entrenching further injustice in this new emerging art and tech space. And I think Elizabeth's quote that she had about everything in this world can be recreated in the virtual world, I mean, it's exciting, but it's also kind of gives you a moment of pause when you think about the context that that's coming from. So while technology presents new opportunities for artists to access new art-making tools, whether it's through accessing a global audience or access to creating art on a phone or an iPad, it also presents a lot of barriers like hardware, software. All of these things cost a lot of money, or physical space. Or maybe it's even a lack of the specialized knowledge in order to create the artwork. And it's also a double-edged sword for the audience, because as you open all of these doors through phones and computers and televisions, you also potentially close those doors through the cost of the equipment, through not being able to interact with the hardware. I mean, even today we're running the VR cinema, and a lot of people with different hairstyles can't wear the headset because either they have braids and it pulls on their hair, it's uncomfortable. That's exclusionary. Those people can't really participate in that experience. And so I think it's important to have these conversations around technology and inclusion. Even to participate in the metaverse, you need internet. You need a graphics processor on your computer that's fast enough to view the content. So when we think about opportunity and access, and technology presents when we think about that in terms of different groups, it becomes even more complex, whether it's racial, gender, socioeconomic. And so now, I would like to turn to the stars of the show. With that sort of framing in mind, we have two artists from France, another from Atlanta. Camille did a great introduction, so I think in light of, we're running a little bit behind time, I think, were there some images that we had displayed? I guess not. In that case, I think we'll just go straight into it. Let me find my question. So first, Fabian, you get the hometown advantage. What do you see as the relationship between art, technology, inclusion, and in your case, a lot of social justice as well?
Well, I come from an interesting intersection between all those things, because I started out of college in advertising. So my career started creatively building websites, developing websites, banner ads, doing a lot of digital work initially. So this NFT era that we find ourselves in is like, why did this happen when I was actually doing digital artwork? Because I'm more analog now. So it's like, I move with the times, and I'm always looking for a new medium to express myself, but also connected to people's everyday lives. So it's coming into the digital space again, and immediately recognizing the barriers between what I used to know and how this system works. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever like tried to like mint an NFT or get a MetaMask account or any of that weird, this new, I'm trying not to curse, but like it's a foreign experience to anybody that hasn't done any type of web development or dabbled in digital platforms when it comes to money. So right there, there's a digital divide. The digital divide back when I came out of school was people of color not knowing how to interact with the emerging technology of computers and jobs in the digital realm. So it's like it's happening again, but this time with money, digital money. But I like to remind all people, young and old, that all of this stuff is made up. This is completely manufactured. People are just making this stuff up. None of this is real, okay? So we are just like, we are letting a very small class of people create this whole world that involves new currency. Now, that to me sucks, but at the same time, it's an opportunity, right? Because we making stuff up. And who's more creative than black people? Nobody. I mean, when it comes to rock and roll, architecture, medicine, spoken language, we started all of that, right? So here's an opportunity in the digital space for us to just make up something else. I got ideas. But we're not gonna get into it right now. But I'm halfway. At first, I was annoyed by it when people were trying to like, yo, you would kill NFTs. You know what I'm saying? But I was looking at the artwork coming out of the platform, monkeys, avatars that have nothing to do with my reality. You know what I'm saying? I'm still dealing with police issues. I'm still in my feed getting, seeing police kill unarmed black people right now. There was just a shooting, 20 minutes ago? A mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. I'm still dealing with that. So coming into the digital world is like, I don't really relate to it. So I'm trying to bring all of this real life stuff, the digital, into this space and give my perspective. So, and I like to remind people that art controls culture, culture controls people. We are the creators of the algorithm that we live by. We create the value systems. We create what people hold dear. Those emotional moments that artists create, that people attach to, that go out and change the world. We do that. So this digital form is just another medium for us to affect people and move people. You just have to move with that purpose in mind when you're on these platforms. So.
That's great. So our other two guests coming a long way from home, Accidental Queens. We're joined by Deanne Landay and Miriam Huali. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah.
So a lot of your work is about creating. It's a narrative-led storytelling game. So tell me, same question around how do you see the relationship between art, technology, and inclusion in the work that you do?
I can start? Yeah. I think for us it's a bit more natural because we are making video games, so we are making stuff that isn't really real. And we're doing that for a long time now. And even before that, I grew up with video games. I'm an artist, and Diane is our programmer. So I started by drawing traditionally on paper and painting and stuff like that. And when I was a young teen, I transitioned to digital art, and for me it was just natural. So when I hear all those conversations about like the metaverse and NFTs and stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, but how is that different from what we are doing for like, I don't know, 15 years, and how is that different? So I have, I think, a lot of questions about that, more than answers. But for video games particularly, I think it's important that the people who are making them, like us and others, are as diverse, like Elizabeth just said in the previous talk, as diverse as the society is, or else we are going to have digital world that will be even worse than the real world.
Yeah, I think those two said it all. So Fabian mentioned something about art making culture making the society we live in, pretty much. The society we live in makes the art, and so it's a cycle. It's not just there's beginning and an end, and so there are layers of responsibility throughout. The way we make games, so to just talk about us a tiny bit, we are a small studio based in the north of France, and we make video games that are narrative and that try to mix innovative game mechanics with very important social topics. Every game has been different in terms of format, but also in terms of topics, because there's a unique mesh that makes the whole experience work. And we see that as twofold. The first part of our work, and it's one that we try to share with as many creatives, especially in video games, is to be responsible with the art that we make. Because we are making culture, because we are building tomorrow's society, we have to be very smart about the way we represent characters and represent cultures inside of our games. They are a mirror of what exists in the real life, but we are making shit up. So, sorry, I'm not as good as...
language.
So yeah, so there's this part, right? It's our responsibility to build a world that we want to live in, and that's better than the one we come from, hopefully. And I think we go a step further in our approach to making games, because we make pieces that are trying to create spaces where people can think about those issues and not just, just do our part in making culture better, but also giving tools for others to understand the world they live in. I realized very late in life, I'm almost 30, oh wow, but I realized recently that I play games mostly to understand the world that I live in, and this is true for video games, but it's been true for tabletop games, and it's been true in general in every act of play that I do. I've done a bit of theater as well. I do all those things because I want to understand the world that I live in, and every game that was given to me, every opportunity that I've had to play with people has been a learning experience first and foremost, and so that's why we are trying to create those for people as well.
Excellent, thank you. And I guess, and anyone can answer this, what are some of the sort of emerging concerns that you have around this relationship of art and technology? Like, I know Fabian, you're sort of really interested in dabbling in NFTs, and obviously being game designers, technology is a key component, but I guess we're now seeing this sort of explosion and sort of this fast track, and maybe it's COVID, maybe it was just good timing, but are there sort of some concerns that you have around art and technology, particularly in terms of inclusion and social justice?
Well, I mean, obviously in terms of inclusion, there's a big gap when it comes to understanding the hardware and the software that's connected to minting NFTs, using digital coin, converting your money to digital coin, fiat currency to digital coin, changing it back to fiat currency so you can actually use it in the real world. I had to be educated on all this when I dropped my NFT. Luckily, I had enough prestige that a group of developers approached me and taught me how to interact with this world. Otherwise, I'm 46. So getting on here on OpenSea and trying to figure out what was going on it took me like 2 hours and I still didn't understand what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? But you know, as far as creative individuals in the Atlanta area, or like if you're an artist, you know, hook up with an engineer. You know what I mean? You're the creative, you're the developer. Usually when you work in advertising or some sort of platform like that, you have the creative person that comes up with the graphics, and then you have the developer that puts the information together. You have the poppers pop and the breakers break. You know what I'm saying? So don't put the pressure on yourself to try and learn everything on your own. There are people whose brains work specifically. I'm sure that, you know, her brain processes numbers completely different from her brain. I am not a numbers brain, even though I love math. Respectfully, I cannot do it. So I'm not like, when I come to the creative process, I let the mathers math, and I do the creative, you know, stuff. You know what I'm saying? So like it's not intuitive. You know what I'm saying? You don't just like get on OpenSea and just start moving around and swimming. It's not a sea at all. So that's the thing that concerns me the most, is getting the younger generation, or not even the younger, the older heads like myself, the fossils, to get on to this new platform and move around, because we have a lot of like creative ideas and experience that we can lend to this world. Because if you notice, the work that's coming out of there is stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't connect to reality in any specific way, which ain't necessarily bad if it's going somewhere, but it's not. So we have a lot of real problems going on right now. We have a lot of really bad social problems. We have gentrification. We have you know, political rights being snipped away. We got a crazy class of people that are just trying to snatch away rights. We got like right wing and super left wing. We got a lot of really crazy things going on. And then you add the digital component with a whole emerging economy attached to it. And the next recession that's coming, you know, I think the digital currency platform is going to step up, because it's not necessarily connected to fiat like that. So it's an opportunity for a lot of people of color to come up. And since we're making up currency, we could make up a currency that's connected to, you know, Afro ingenuity. Because after all, we did make everything to a certain degree. Wouldn't it make sense for us to attach a currency to that? I don't know. Just saying. Think about it. That's my idea, by the way. 2023.
I think the way that everyone feels very strongly about that joke and loves about it tells a lot about, like, this whole situation is just another one of those we've already been through, and that's what is concerning to me, is we're creating this whole new space online, the metaverse, right? And so we've been creating spaces as long as we've existed as humans, and usually this doesn't go too well for a while, and then it maybe picks up and gets good. And usually we do the same mistakes all the time. And so this time we're starting this new space, and we're saying, oh, it's a digital twin of what we already have. So that's even worse than starting something from scratch.
Yes, the internet, I know about that.
Yeah, so the recent example would be the internet. That was fun, right? That's a whole thing. So yeah, it's just, there's no new issue to resolve, but the reason we're here, like you've seen all the panels before as well, it's we have issues that we still have to resolve. We have history to learn from, but we fail to apply it correctly to actually resolve the things that we need to resolve. So we are trying to create new spaces that are doomed to have the same issues that we still don't know how to solve. So there's this whole disconnect here for me that I don't see enough people addressing in meaningful ways. It's not that it's not possible. I think the tech itself is not problematic, but it's what we do with it. Like one example would be NFTs being based on enforcing ownership and scarcity when those two things are not ways to resolve problems, they are the problems usually. And so these are the limits that I can see from my position, but like people have other perspectives on that, and hopefully they can bring like the good solutions to the table before it gets too bad.
So now we've got 5 minutes left, so I just wanted to share a quote from Professor George Dye, a Ghanaian-born educator and researcher and writer, and he says, "Inclusion is not bringing people into what already exists, it is making a new space a better space for everyone." And so for our panel, I want to know, how are you creating new artistic spaces and making sure that these are better for everyone?
Me? Okay.
You have something to say about education.
Yeah, I think it starts very, very early because in video games, for example, like I said, it lacks a lot of diversity, and the spaces in video games are like, there are good spaces where people can share their artistic vision, their thoughts. Like there are kind of game like those we made that were made for a long time by in queer spaces, for example, and these are super important. But when you ask like the mainstream about video games, we think about blockbusters, we think about all the things that are advertised, and those are targeted to specific demographics. And when you ask young kids and even less young teenagers, like, do you want to go to the spaces? Do you want to make video games? And it's always the same kind of people who say yes. And we had the opportunity to like talk to young women and young people of color and young people from other social backgrounds than the one that we usually see in video games, and they all say that they think it's not for them, but not when they are it's not when they are adults, it's when they are still in high school. So there is a lot of things to do to enable them to think, oh, I can do that too. I can use those spaces too. I can make my own spaces too. And I think what we are trying to do as developers is make games that show that that can be used as models, maybe, of what we would want to see more in this industry. And also, as people, we go and talk to them and show them that yeah, you too can do that, and you should try. We've done it, so you can do it too.
Now you go ahead.
I say the old saying, each one teach one. I'm an open book. Whenever someone comes up to me and asks me, like, how do you do X, Y, and Z, I just tell them, you do this, this, talk to this person. If you don't know how to do this, go to this person, go to this resource. And I feel like at this point, especially with it being so early, someone sat me down and explained to me how it works. I turned around and talked to my kids, and I showed them how it works. And I believe that there's enough little geniuses running around all these little streets of Atlanta. Like, we have a ton of creative resources in the city, and we have a ton of little creative people that are super smart and just looking to, like, explode upon this new platform. They just need to know how to do it. So if you know how it works, turn to your neighbor, tell them how it works. And I really feel like if we all consistently do that with a goal in mind of expanding the platform, the opportunities for the platform to whoever wants to know, whoever, it doesn't matter, old or young, I think that the diversity issue will take care of itself, but you got to want to do it. You know, it has to be in the culture. And as I say again, art controls the culture, culture controls people. So the artists have to take the lead and spread the word.
I think we've probably got 1 minute left, so are there any parting thoughts you want to share, any sort of reflections of your time in Atlanta?
Yeah. So we've been here for 3 weeks. We've been invited to Atlanta to meet new people and compare notes on how we work and how people here work. Our expectation was that with the history that the city has and how important social justice probably was throughout everyone's life here, it would show in their work, and that is very true. From like everyone who we've talked to has said something to that. We have not yet found the way this is expressed in any specific and concrete way throughout their work. Like it's not necessarily just, oh, because I'm from Atlanta, I'm going to do this and this and this, and suddenly my work is great. It doesn't work that way, and that's obvious. And so we're trying to see now the common threads throughout all the notes that we've taken during those meetings. We'll be here for 1 more week, and then we'll have something to show to properly like put everything on the table. Like, this is what we learned. This is how people work here. And this is in parts due to their history and to the history of the city. This is also in parts due to the people themselves, because it's not the city that does the job, it's the people who do the job. It's their communities, it's the spaces that they build and that they respect and they try to entertain. It's the tools that they share, that they give others, that others before them gave them. And so it's, again, a whole cycle, but it's in a specific state here in Atlanta, and we're trying to capture that.
Fabian, before we get dragged off stage, do you have any final thoughts? I know you got lots of thoughts, but
my only my thought I'm leaving with you guys here is, you know, think about this emerging economic platform as, you know, an opportunity for you to grow your reach. You know, the thing about the digital platform is that it lands on a lot of different places where it otherwise wouldn't if you just, you know, were walking around downtown or something like that. So, and you also have an opportunity, at least for me, NFTs has created a way for me to actually make money so I can do the type of work that I actually want to do without turning to a corporate partner. You know, I don't know if you guys have dealt with working with corporate entities, you know, but sometimes they're not willing to say the things that need to be said. And using digital currency to go out and buy my supplies, find a wall, and to create a piece of work that I know is going to reach people and touch people in the way I need it to, without having to water it down because it, you know, doesn't have the corporation's fingerprint on it. You know, I like to say what I need to say, and using NFT currency is a great way to do it. It's not the only way, but it's a good way to do it, you know, if you can finagle it. So I encourage all creatives to like look into it. I'm more of a phygital, you know, I'm still on planet Earth. My feet touch the ground. So I like to have a physical as well as a digital, and vice versa. So, but if you want to go completely virtual, that's on you, but I'm 46.
great. Fabian, Miriam, Diane, thank you for joining us.